In a moment.
The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion.
And back here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, special edition of the Adam Malamut Show. Show number 3, Pennsylvania State Rep Jared Solomon, now part of the Library of Information. Good stuff, good opening segment. Love the conversation, Adam, about taking back your neighborhood. Really good stuff.
So where we left off, Jared, was helping out those folks in your neighborhood. We were talking about your constituents and that 62% increase in poverty. So how do we change that?
A neighborhood needs to have a vision. You have to have a vision. So what I have been preaching in my community is we've got one thing going for us. The one thing and the way to rebrand and redefine our neighborhood is through the diversity. The diversity is our selling point. So that is why I have been bringing institutional players to our neighborhood to reintroduce them to what is now the new Northeast, this dynamic, growing community. That's why we had Night Market, which is this huge food truck festival with over 10,000 people along one of my business corridors. We brought the Pennsylvania Ballet, the Philadelphia Orchestra, Pennsylvania Orchestra, Philadelphia Ballet, all to Northeast High so people could experience the great diversity of my community. We had a long spread on all of the restaurants, the great cultural, international really, cuisines in my community. And that type of narrative is registering with people. People in the neighborhood need to be uplifted by something. And if we can identify something, which is the diversity, and market that through our food, that's a winner. I mean, who doesn't want to eat? People will travel anywhere to eat. We have it right in the Northeast. We have cheaper options than Center City, and the food is phenomenal.
Jared, I often tell people when we get into these types of discussions and we start talking about food and restaurants in the area, this body doesn't come naturally. So you let me know when you're having those food festivals, and I will do my best to bring my group of folks out to support them.
You got to come out to the Northeast, Adam. Craig LeBon did a 3-page review of the restaurants in my district, and he loved them. He hadn't been out to the Northeast. He loved the different ethnic cuisines in the area. That's the way we're going to begin to bring my neighborhood
Sounds
back.
like we need a food tour.
Let's do it. Out in the Northeast.
Let's do it. So we talked about the arts and food, but in my mind, when you have a 62% increase in poverty, we have to get to the economic development and creating jobs. And I'm familiar with your district. There have been some retailers who had a presence there who are no longer there. How do you go about filling those shoes?
Right. So part is getting a vision and defining where you're going. And also Visit Philly, which is the main tourism engine of the city, is going to be doing a 6-month rollout of the new Northeast. So it's building that narrative. That's one, and we talked about that. Second and key is you have to get the business corridors right. Business corridors are the really lifeline of a community, and we have 4. So what I'm doing is, number one, you have to have safe business corridors. If they're not safe, no one's going to come out. No one's going to enjoy the restaurants. So I made a pledge to my community. We're going to get a new police district, and that's going to be opening in a few months. Also, I said we're going to get more officers, more community policing on the beat, on our corridors. We have 20 new officers. You need safe business corridors. Second, you need anchor properties, place-making properties that redefine a corridor. So if you look on our corridors, what you're seeing is once vacant properties, I'm bringing in developers to house really exciting projects that are going to begin to redefine what those corridors are. So you need the anchor properties, you need safe corridors, and you also have to get the nuts and bolts right? You need better lighting, You need the sidewalks to look good, the streets to get repaved. And that's why I brought in state grant money to hire us a business corridor manager. So they work every single day with businesses all along our corridors to ensure that they're availing themselves of the city, state programs that are out there.
Now, in creating programs like that, there are a lot of opportunists, and there are a lot of people that try to create benefits for themselves. And we've heard countless stories of legislators and electeds from around the country that have gotten involved in self-dealing, that have put themselves before the constituents that they serve. And we always tell people who are newly elected or hopefully soon to be elected to never forget that a district or a city or a county or a state doesn't belong to one party. It belongs to the residents of that area. You've been on the forefront of ethics reform, we'll call it, creation for electeds in Pennsylvania, and holding electeds responsible for their bad behavior. Talk about your recent proposal to hold electeds responsible.
Sure. So I think it's a comprehensive proposal that includes election reform, that includes the ability to hold electeds accountable, that includes term limits. But in terms of the accountability, we're only one of three states, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and Utah, who have no mechanism to hold our officials accountable and allow people to rise up and recall an elected official. Only 3 in the whole country. What we're looking to do is simply to build in this accountability. So let's say there's an issue of misfeasance, malfeasance, nonfeasance. We want people in neighborhoods like mine and throughout the city and the Commonwealth, to say, look, that behavior, it doesn't work anymore. We need that elected official to have their eye on the prize, to be looking to improve their community, to be looking to think about educational attainment and uplifting a community out of poverty. And if they're not, we're going to try and go in a different direction. So this gives the people that built-in accountability. They would need to get a certain number of signatures to trigger a recall, and then it's up to the voters. The voters then decide, do they want this person representing them still, or do they want to move in a different direction?
So where does that stand right now in the legislature?
So right now, I'm building a bipartisan group of legislators who are committed to this recall effort, and we're just growing every day. The number of individual legislators who are hearing from back home that this is a proposal that they want in Pennsylvania.
Outstanding. We're going to go on break in a minute, but just to kind of bring it back to ethics, term limits. When we come back, I want to talk about your thoughts on term limits. I want to talk about your experience with people who have not had term limits and where you believe term limits for elected should go.
This is the Adam Malamut Show on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT. Back in a moment.